Hey everyone, I'm so excited you're all here, and thank you so much for joining us for this call today, John. I'm really excited to hear more about your journey with your card deck, your Angel Party Tarot, and I really love the name to start and can't wait to hear more about how that idea came to you. But first of all, I'm just gonna give everyone a short introduction. So John is an intuitive artist and angel art reader, and as I said, the creator of the Angel Party Tarot. And he's going to share a little bit more about his journey with his deck today. And also, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about your work with the angels and your intuitive work. I think that would be really fun to hear as well. And then, of course, we would love to see some cards from your deck too, and maybe pull some cards.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here and to hopefully inspire other people to like follow through on their creative visions and to create their decks as well.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you got started on your journey with card decks in general, and maybe your work with the angelic realms as well. So, how did you feel inspired to get started on this journey, and what was the guidance there? Is that something that's been with you from an early age?
Sure. So this is actually a really embarrassing story. A few of you have heard this already, but my journey with tarot started with this book, Tarot for Dummies, and it was kind of a gag. I bought it as a joke, and I had zero intentions of this taking over my life and kind of changing the direction of my career. But this book came along with the Smith weight deck, and I was traveling around the world at the time and just carried the little deck and this book. And as I was alone at diners and dive bars, I would just kind of like meet strangers and was using it as a method of connection. And I realized I was pretty good at it. And at the time I was like, "Oh, I have a degree in theater. I'm just good at storytelling and connecting the dots." And I didn't really embrace my intuitive gifts yet, but the problem with the traditional tarot deck is that so many people were perceiving the messages from a place of fear. So they might see the death card or the tower card and be terrified. And I struggled to combat that hurdle because the messages, as far as I was attempting to deliver them, were always so positive and from a place of love. But the images on the cards were scaring the clients. So around that time, I stumbled into Doreen Virtue and her deck with Radley Valentine. This guy, Angel Tarot, and this changed my life. This allowed me to really deliver those messages from a place of love, um without the client being fearful or timid about the imagery or the message at all. So that kind of sent me down a rabbit hole, studying with Doreen and learning about angels, and that kind of led me to the path of working with a shaman in New York. She, I think, is like she goes between Florida and New York. Her name is Elka Boren, and she's the OG of the intuitive angel art. So I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Her website is unityangelhealing.com, and she kind of like she anytime she came into the city, I would go study with her. She had the opportunity to learn or get certified in her intuitive angel art readings, and I jumped at that chance. And for a very long time I just kind of did this intuitive art as like a a party trick for family and friends. I would just at my birthday parties or other events, I would just get out my paints and start giving people readings. And it was really three mentors in probably around 2020 during the pandemic. Radley Valentine, Dougal Fraser, and Mooney Saeed kind of shoved me out of the nest and were like, "What are you doing?" Like, you need to be sharing your gift, you need to be sharing your talents. And it scared me to death, but I answered the call. I followed their guidance and I took the leap of faith. And I'm grateful every day that I did it.
Yay, I'm so glad you're here with us today. And I love hearing your story. It sounds like there's quite a few connections there actually too. But for the two of us, I actually studied with Doreen as well a long time ago. I was in her very last angel therapy workshop that she did in 2011. And yeah, Radley I know as well.
Yeah, lifetimes
Mm.
ago. That's like
Mhm.
a whole nother chapter.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about how the idea to create your own card deck, your own tarot deck first came to you. And yeah, I guess the art and creating your own art was already something that you were doing. But how did you feel inspired, or how did you get the nudge to create your own deck with your own messages?
Sure. So you can see behind me all of the little paintings that are constantly being created. And every time I worked with a client or anytime I went to a psychic fair or anything like that, everyone always asked, "Oh, do you have a deck?" And there's this nagging kind of like reminder that there is this like empty space in my business model where a deck would really fill it and allow clients to take the magic home with them. And that like persistent signs, whether it's like the numbers or the feathers or the coins, like all of those little nagging signs kind of just got louder and louder and louder. And in addition to that, all of my, or not all of them, but many of my colleagues are producing their own decks. And I started to have like that sense of FOMO where it was just like, oh my gosh, like if they can do it, I know I can do it too. And one of my colleagues and her daughter published decks through Wonderland. And I always, anytime a colleague publishes a deck or a book, I'm like the first one to go in and buy it. I like to support my friends. So these three decks, you'll probably notice. This is Mari Lou's deck that Wonderland published, and then Coco's decks here. And what I loved about Coco's decks is they were round, and I always envisioned that I would create my deck as a circle, but I didn't know how. I didn't know anything about publishing a deck or how I would achieve that. But when I saw Coco's cards were round, I was like, okay, I know it's possible. How do I do this? And so I looked on the back of her deck. I saw Wonderland Publishing, and I went in and I was like, let me investigate this. And the first thing to pop up was this like ad for a do-it-yourself class. It was like I forget what the exact title of the class, but it's the create your own deck course. And I was like, I'm just gonna do it without regret. I just followed my inspiration. I purchased the class and I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna do this. And I didn't rush myself. I didn't like dive in right away and just start going manic, but I just kind of very gradually started watching the videos, learning, dabbling and doing some more research about printers and stuff like that. And the course really helped me kind of put it all together. I had been for years kind of dabbling with creating the art and putting it into a deck form. So this was kind of like the nudge that I needed to set me over the edge. And before you know it, Angel Party Tarot was born, and my beautiful round deck was created. And each of the cards has a beautiful intuitive angel art painting and a channeled message on it. So thank you for creating the course and for making it so easy for novices like me to kind of dive in and navigate the process and to figure it out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that inspiring story. And I'm super excited to hear, of course, that the course was helpful for you. And yeah, and I see that you created something really beautiful. and also it looks very unique. So it's inspired by the tarot, but I see you also have your own interpretations of the cards, and I'm probably going to have some questions about that. Um, but maybe, well, one question I always ask everyone I interview too is, were there any challenges you faced on this journey or any lessons you learned, and how did you overcome them? And maybe what would be some tips that you'd want to share with other creators as well who are on their journey or thinking about creating their card deck?
Sure. So the first lesson is that creating an oracle deck is so much easier than creating a tarot deck. And as a creative being bound by an existing structure often presented its challenges. So I'm so grateful I went through this creative journey, but as I was sharing my drafts and my original kind of test decks with tarot professionals, they were often the harshest critics about my interpretations of some of the cards. Another lesson, I'm the stereotypical perfectionist, so learning to just get out of my way and know that there were points where I could either spend the next decade kind of like trying to get a card perfect or a painting perfect, or I could just move on, live with it, and know that it's just right as it is in this moment. Like, I did not want to be bound by perfectionism, and actually in 2024, when all of this was finally coming together for me, my goal or my resolution of the year was to set my perfectionism aside and just to finish the projects that had all been sitting on the back burner for years. So yeah, I think the final lesson that I'll say that I learned is that like nothing is just gonna be like falling into our lap, and we're like we can't just sit back and sit idly by and expect all of our clients to manifest or all of our suddenly decks to sell. Like, we have to meet the universe halfway. We have to show up, and the real work is going to happen after the deck is published. That's that's when we actually have to start pounding the pavement, sharing our product, and and really like sh share the product and the magic that we've created. So I would say for anyone considering to create their deck, definitely do it, but understand that the second it's out is when you have to start actually contacting bookshops to carry the deck and doing the work to get it listed in different stores or on Amazon. And then showing up on social media to draw up excitement and interest. So yeah, I would say I'm still learning. I still have not completed the like distribution or sales section of the do-it-yourself course. So I definitely need to go back and finish some of those lessons so that I can improve my sales and my distribution as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that in so much detail. And I think there's a lot here that a lot of us can relate to, no matter where we're at on our journeys. But I think that's a really good point and something that I've definitely seen some people don't always consider when they first get started, that it's really a long game. I think especially for us creative people, we're just so in love with the creative process, and then sometimes the tendency can be, okay, we've created this and I'm going to go and create the next thing, but then just being really shy about actually sharing what we've created, and yeah, I feel that's a really important
Well,
piece
yeah, I
because yeah.
Oh, sorry. I created my first video and I was like, "Great, my promo video is out." And then I'm like, "Oh, wait, I have to do more? I have to actually record hundreds of these videos and show up on multiple podcasts and yeah, it's an ever evolving journey, but we have to keep showing up every day if we want the deck to keep selling.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many ways to do this too, and yeah, that's something we talk about a lot in our mastermind as well, and like different ways of leveraging our strengths. But I think one of the big advantages of having our own decks and depending on our business model as well. I mean, there's so many ways we can leverage having a deck and or using it in our own business. But I think it's such a great tool to actually put yourself out there too, like when you're promoting other parts of your business and yeah, I mean, whatever you're offering workshops or one-on-one sessions and just using it as a tool in your marketing as well. I think that's it's a really great way to do it. Um, but
I
yeah,
think, and I was going to say that the community, the thing I'm noticing more and more is as more of us come together that are creating decks, want to create decks, have created decks, everybody sort of has these like wings of specialty, and like you get some like we've had a lot of success with crowdfunding and Shopify, and you've done all of this stuff with publishing, and then there's others out there that have done like tremendous on just Etsy alone, or some just tremendously in wholesale and retail stores, and they don't do anything online. And I see the power in that kind of vortex coming together as we all are coming together and sharing. We get to see in the windows of how it all works outside of our strengths, and then we can kind of all become strong because of it. And I think that's been like one of the most helpful things for us and the most eye-opening things over the past what I think we've been making decks since 2018. So it's been it's been a wild expansion. And you're right, John. It's like it's a constant willingness and eagerness to learn, and you have to have the excitement to want to do it, or the universe isn't going to let it work anyway, right? So yeah.
What I love about that is that like there's not one path. There are infinite paths, but we have to actually take that first step and actually take to enjoy our authentic journey and proceed on that path. So yeah, showing up in our own way and doing it authentically, um and not kind of feeling pigeonholed by one path. And that's what's great about the course too, is you offer so many different um options. Like when it comes to printing or distributing, you're really giving us a holistic view of what options are available, and from there we can kind of see what resonates and move forward.
thank you for that feedback too. That was really my intention behind that as well, because I've seen that and show up in so many different ways on my journey with different businesses or parts of my business too, and just seeing like marketing is really there's infinite possibilities and we can get really creative with it. So it's good to have an overview of all the options, but ultimately really feeling into what our own strengths and what's really driving us. And but yeah, I think you had a really good point there. I think just the essence is really being ready and willing to show up and share our light with the world and our work and our magic. And so I think you're doing that really beautifully and I feel really inspired by what you're sharing there. Um, yeah, and I think another thing that you mentioned also with the journey with perfectionism, I think that's one that a lot of us can relate to. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck too, just that idea that it has to be the best it can be. And there is something to be said for just doing our best to create something really beautiful and putting in the time and work and effort and love it needs, but then also not letting it hold us back. And so I'm really glad to hear that you saw that and that you allowed yourself to move through that element of resistance and just move forward and create the deck and put it out there.
There was, I forget what spiritual coach or teacher said this, but there's someone who is saying that when they look at their past books and products, they're kind of embarrassed because they no longer resonate with them, and that's something to be celebrated. That we've outgrown that product, we're ever evolving, and that's a good thing. That's not something that we should be ashamed of. And that I think about that every day, because every time, like this deck is, I'm really proud of it. I think everyone should go buy it. I think it's a magical tool. But a decade from now, I promise you, I'm gonna produce an even more powerful tool.
I can definitely relate to that. I feel like that's happened to me so many times, and thanks again for us creative people especially, and we're always on a journey of evolution. So I think it's yeah, I've experienced those times when I kind of held back from creating something because I was too attached to it needing to be, something that I can keep sharing for a long time, or feeling like, okay, maybe I'm just not ready yet, or whatever, or it's just, yeah, maybe I won't keep sharing it forever.
Yeah,
Um,
or the fear of
mhm,
judgment. Like
mhm.
that's like just this morning I woke up and I had two hate comments on a YouTube video that I just posted, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the old me would have let that like the old me would have spiraled into like an emotional breakdown and would have shut down and closed up shop. But the new me is like, that's awesome. I got two comments. That's just gonna boost the algorithm and more people are gonna see it.
Exactly. And I always like to say if you're getting comments, even hate comments, you're doing something right. You're making an impact.
Yes.
So we have some questions here from some people in the chat. So the first question, I don't know, how and how much detail you want to answer this. Maybe this is something that Heath and I can go into briefly as well. But Roseanne asked about the budget. So what was your budget or your costs associated with producing your deck? And I know this is going to be very different for everyone. There are many different ways of creating decks, and depending on what your budget is too. But I don't know if you want to share anything about that, John. So
Sure.
there's no pressure, but
I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I started very small. So I ordered one prototype to start. So that was maybe like a $50 investment to like just see the prototype, hold it in my hands, play around with it. I then kind of expanded to six or seven like edited versions that I bought, and that way I could send it out to some tarot professionals across the country, get their feedback. And then I worked up the courage to put in an order of about 250 to start, and that was like about a $5,000 investment. So, obviously, the more you buy, the cheaper they are. But for me, I felt confident that in the first round, I could just pretty pretty efficiently sell the 250. So that number felt appropriate for me. But for anyone else, you can start small. Like what's great about the course and at least I did my deck through makeplayingcards.com, which is one of the venues that the course recommended. And you could buy it like I said, as few as one or as as many as like thousands. So um you can make that investment within your comfort zone. And I think Make Playing Cards also has like a print on demand option or something like that, but I didn't choose that.
yeah, they're definitely a print on demand company. So that's the advantage if you're just wanting to start small and order some first prototypes, and so you can order as many as you want. I will say once you get up to larger numbers, like I don't know, 300, or then sometimes it might be more efficient to go through a company that produces in bulk. You probably would have saved quite a bit in the 5,000. You could get like 1,000 made for that with some other companies. This is just a side note, but it's just good to know that there are different options. So if you do have, or if you're starting with a smaller budget and you've never done it before and you want to get a feel for the process and maybe tweak some things too and get some feedback, I think that's a really good place to start. And then you can always expand from there. Another question we have from Roseanne as well. How long did it take you like the process from basically creating and like from start to finish, I guess, creating and producing the deck and getting it out there.
Sure. So I think I joined the course in April or May of 2024, and by October it was printed and ready for distribution. So I had been for over a year working on digitizing my art and kind of perfecting that process. But once that was ready, I think the course set me up for success to just kind of like jump in and make it happen. And I I did things kind of backwards because at first I was just thinking that it was gonna be like I was gonna really take my time and be slow and casual about it. But I had sold like people were begging once they started seeing the prototype to buy the deck. So I made pre-sales available, and then with every pre-sale that was happening, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was just feeling like this overwhelming pressure to get it out because so many people had purchased it. So that's what kind of like rushed the timeline for me. But yeah, it was a very quick turnaround once I had everything digitized and ready. I designed it in Canva, so that was very easy and accessible. I'm fortunate enough to have the Adobe suite, but I was like, for this one, I'm gonna like keep it very simple. Um, I designed the box in Adobe, but beyond that, I did everything in Canva, and then it was super easy to just drag and drop in the makeplayingcards.com website, and yeah, everything was pretty easy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you did a really good job. I think you're a good example of someone who has the eye for the visuals too. And if you have the right tools and yeah, like you were able to figure it out pretty easily to just make it look really good. And um, yeah, so I'm glad to hear that was fairly smooth for you. And so we have some more questions here. Okay, Roseanne, I'm just going to answer this very quickly. Does Amazon offer print on demand for decks? I know they do for books. So the short answer is no, they don't. It's definitely not as easy for decks as it is for books, which is one of the reasons why we teach what we teach as well, because it's a lot more complex, especially if you have to do all the research yourself. There are some ways you can link like print on demand to Amazon. There's a company named Vervante. There's a kind of a combined print on demand and bulk printer in the US, and they do distribute to Amazon. So that would be one way to do this, but you can't do it directly through Amazon. Another question here for you, John. Which social media have you had the most success with in creating and sharing, or like creating a genuine following?
Sure. So I'm blessed that I have a pretty diverse platform. I don't have all of my eggs in one basket anymore. They used to all be on TikTok, but I've been very diligent about growing my other platforms, especially with the looming threat of perhaps TikTok going away. But I have about 20,000 followers on Instagram. I have surprisingly about 5,000 followers on Snapchat. And who knew that people on Snapchat were wanting tarot card readings? But my videos there do rather well. So I guess everyone's looking for a little daily inspiration. I'm on Facebook as well. And I'm dabbling with Blue Sky, but I have not yet built a following there.
Yeah, awesome. The Snapchat, I didn't even know that you could actually build a following there. So
I
that's
didn't
very
either.
inspiring. It's very outside the box. So
In 2023, I had a handful of videos go viral and get over 1 million views. And one of those was on Snapchat. So like overnight I went from having maybe like 50 followers to like really gaining some steam there. And yeah, I'm grateful grateful for that.
yeah, that's really exciting. And it's always fun to see, when something just falls into place like that. I feel there's like an element of divine inspiration and guidance there too, when we just allow it to kind of flow through us and something just kind of happens magically. But feel it's just a sign of alignment too. You're really supported on this journey of sharing the deck. And as you said, you're meeting the universe halfway, and then the magic happens to come and support you.
What was magical about those videos that went viral is that it was a place where I was kind of just posting in autopilot. I wasn't diligently tracking the stats or obsessing over the numbers. And like as soon as I let go and was just like, I'm just like basically leaving these breadcrumbs of inspiration for people to find, and whatever happens happens. They'll end up in the right people's feeds. Like whoever needs to hear this message will see it, and those are the videos that actually went viral, the ones that I had like let go. I had done the work in producing the video, but I let go after it was done, and those were the most successful.
I love hearing that, and I think that's something I've seen quite a few times too on this journey. Like when we have expectations about, whatever piece of content that we're sharing, like sometimes it's really not the ones. I mean, sometimes we kind of get a feeling for something that's really important to share, and it's going to make a big impact. But I think that's one of the advantages of sharing a lot of content. I've seen that on YouTube most often, or just some videos. Okay, I'm just feeling inspired to share this right now, or sometimes with blog posts too. Maybe I'm sharing it now, but maybe after years, so all of a sudden the algorithms, search engines start picking it up and moving it up, and then it starts getting, I don't know, thousands of views or clicks, and we never know. But I think when we just follow that inspiration that drives us, and without too much attachment, and that kind of magic can definitely
Well,
happen.
yeah, and just like the course that you created, like you had no idea that I had downloaded that course, and that the decks you had published had inspired me to like publish my own. And like we are constantly every day by putting our magic out there and our creations out there, inspiring others in ways that we can't even comprehend.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's so much more we could say about that. Um, just seeing another question here from Judy. What course is John talking about? So I'll just mention it briefly. We'll link it below the recording as well. But so the course that John took is, if you go to wonderlandpublishing.net, you'll find it on there. We now also have an extended option, which is basically the mastermind that I've co-created with Heath and Jason. That's the Deck Creators Launchpad. You'll also find a link to that on wonderlandpublishing.net as well, where you can just go to deckcreators.com. And then once the recording is out on YouTube, we'll link all that below as well. So how about we pull some cards from your deck? Or maybe
Sure.
maybe just one card for everyone, or whatever you feel inspired to do, really.
Okay, I think one card is fine. Okay, so this is this is an example of you can't make this shit up. So we got the Six of Wands. The Six of Wands, which is the victory card. And my favorite thing about this painting is you can see it's a burst of colors all around, but right here in the center, we have this beigeish gray color. Now that's my color for intuition. So what this card is really inviting us to do, it's to follow our passion, follow our intuition, and it's in letting us know that if we take the courageous steps forward, that our efforts are going to pay off, and that beautiful rewards are going to result. So this is a card about celebrating our creativity and letting everyone on this call know that they're worthy of following through on their dreams. So definitely be one of the be one of the 10% of people that actually achieve goes for their dreams and pursues their dreams. Don't be part of the 90% that don't.
I love this. And I love how you put both the upright and reversed meanings on the cards. I think that's going to make things really easy for especially people who aren't that familiar with tarot. I feel like, I mean, there's so many people working with tarot, but it's not very beginner friendly. So
Well,
I
it's
think,
interesting too because so many people have commented
mm,
that when it comes sideways, that they like interpret that in different ways. So the round cards have really added to the magic. There is a little color guide that comes along with the deck, but for the most part, each of these paintings is a channeled angelic message, and I invite the users to really just release their ego, stare into the message and or stare into the painting, and it's an invitation into the angelic realm. I promise new messages will arise every time you stare into these paintings. New colors will pop out, new shapes will appear, and yeah, I am very proud of this deck.
yeah, you should be. And what I really love about the art, like the style that you're using, I feel there's so much you can see when you really look at the art, and it's kind of like one of my clients created a coffee cup reading deck, and kind of based on the idea of reading coffee grounds or tea leaves or whatever. I th feel this kind of artwork is very similar. Like every time you can look at it and you can see faces or different things and shapes and the colors. And yeah, so that's awesome. And just have a follow-up question here for you as well. So you said there's a color guide that comes with a deck, which I love. I feel that's going to be so useful for a lot of people and really inspiring as well. Did you include a booklet with your deck, or is it just on some extra cards, the color guide, or is it downloadable? Like how are you providing it?
Sure. So I chose let's see if I can pull it out. I chose the Z fold option, so it's just like this little guide that's included. I strategically did not include a guidebook because I wanted this to be an invitation to connect with the angels. I did not want this to be users kind of flipping through a guidebook to see what I interpreted the message as. I wanted them to really open up their own channel and connect to the art in their own way. That has been a slightly controversial choice, I won't lie. There's still so many people that are begging for a guidebook, and I actually teach a certification course, and as part of that course, I begrudgingly put together a guidebook just for those students, and sent that out to them in the classroom. But I'm not quite yet sure if I'm going to publish that or not. But yeah, I think it's important for me that each user can connect to the art in their own way, and that the messages are really authentically coming from their voice, and that it's not just me kind of defining what each painting is supposed to mean.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great example of the beauty of, creating your own deck, like basically being in charge of your own journey with it rather than working with a publisher who might, just give you some guidelines or like this is exactly how we're going to do it. And there's so many ways to get creative with, providing whatever you want to provide with the deck. And I know like quite a few of my clients have published their decks without guidebooks. And especially in the US, it's really easy to do. You can actually still get an ISBN number even if you don't have a guidebook. And most other countries, it's kind of a limitation there. Like here in Canada, I have to include a guidebook if I want to publish it with an ISBN number. But
It's
yeah, I
kind of
mean,
funny because angels that work with us through creation don't really give us a guidebook that's physical, right? So I love that the deck that because when I look at your art also the first thing I see is like, oh, I feel like there was a presence of an angel with each card, and that drew me to like the curiosity of if you were like, do you have certain angels that you work with a lot, or all the different, like, were you open to, I'm just really curious about the process of how you're interacting with the angels and how they're coming through into the cards. Because when I look at those, I'm like, oh, I feel that, or I see that, I feel it all in like one, it's like all the senses at once. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, so each of the paintings is like a channeled message. So I try not to overthink the colors that are being pulled as I'm putting the paintings together. I really just go into neutral and allow them to take the wheel. Personally, I gravitate toward Gabriel. Archangel Gabriel is an angel that I rely on every day. I'm an introvert. I really am scared of public speaking. So I pray to Gabriel, like I prayed to Gabriel right before this call, just praying for the right words to come out of my mouth and to have the courage to inspire others. But yeah, I work with all of the angels. They appear at different times and different moments, and they'll appear with different clients who need to receive specific messages. So I try to just get out of my own way, and especially when I'm working with clients or when I'm painting, to just allow the angels to take over and allow those messages to come through.
Before the process of this deck started coming through, what were some, like, being where you are now, what are some of the like most amazing things that this deck has like opened up for you in the world that you never saw coming, throughout that process of, like, how has it basically changed the direction of your life in ways?
Sure. Well, I never thought I would be teaching a class, and through through the demand of my students or my clients, they demanded that I teach a class. So that is happening right now and going really, really smoothly. So that's kind of like amped my game up and helped me level up. Radley Valentine just had me on his podcast. So actually, Deborah, who's in the audience, was right there with me. She's also a very talented, intuitive artist. So that was like a bucket list kind of surprise that when he emailed and said, "Hey, I would love to feature you and your card deck on my podcast." I was like, "What? Like this is a dream come true, something I would never even expect in a million years." So I think the the fact that it is published has maybe added a little validity to my process and to my work, and I'm open to the opportunities that continue to arise.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think it's just another example of, when you really have the courage to follow the call and you're putting yourself out there, and then there's just so many opportunities and doors that open when you're really in alignment with your soul's path and calling. I have another question that just popped up, because I think this is a question that I get from time to time from creators who hand hand paint their art. So did you like hand draw your art, or is it like is it watercolor? How exactly do you do it? And if so, do you have any tips for like scanning it in a way that like prints really well and the colors come out
Um,
the way they're
so
supposed to?
I will say that that was the biggest challenge, and my method is proprietary, so I'm not going to share the exact method of how I scan it and get it into digitized, but I would say that that is the process that basically took me a full year to perfect, of getting the acrylic paintings to digitize in a way where you still felt that angelic energy. Because often when I first started scanning it from my cell phone or using a traditional scanner, I wasn't necessarily like feeling the energy that was meant to be felt. So I think my art is uniquely challenging because it's not like it's not traditional shapes or figures. Like you really need the colors to blend in a specific way. And again, it's that channeled angelic message that you want to come through, and you want immediately the emotions to be evoked from the user. So yeah, I will say that that was a challenge, and I am happy that I was persistence paid, and I was able to, through regular practice, come up with a method that ended up working rather well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I was just curious about that because I've had this challenge kind of come up with some of my clients too. Just recently, we started working on a deck with watercolor art, and like half of the images were like photographed with a phone and bad lighting and way too small, and so we had to ask our client to rescan everything. Um, but I think there's something really interesting that you shared here too, which is basically it's not just, the technical aspects or the practical part of reproducing it accurately, but also the aspect of still keeping the energy and the messages that you want to share that come through the visuals and the energy of the artwork. So yeah, I think that's really fascinating. So thank you for sharing that. So I think we can maybe wrap up this call pretty soon, but first I just want to ask if anybody has any other questions, then please just type them in the chat. And yeah,
I'll
I think
start
we
with
have.
one quick one.
Okay.
I really want to know if you have angel parties.
Yes, I do. I have monthly angel parties. So if you want to experience a live intuitive art reading, anyone who's on this call, use the code DECK. If you use the code DECK, you can attend your first angel party for free. Those events are always on my website at johnmothershead.com. And I have one a month. So if you can't attend this month, you can always attend a future one. I'll keep that code DECK alive so anyone watching this can attend their first angel party for free. But yeah, it's a lovely community of guests who come. We do kind of rapid fire back to back intuitive art readings. I've got my projector up so we can see my hands painting while I'm delivering the messages. And I always feature a very talented intuitive guest. So I'm there with some pretty talented intuitives as well.
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to join one of those angel parties. I know I'm gonna have to do that. Just seeing a question from Roseanne here with, okay, I guess this is for me, so I'm just gonna keep this very brief. But with Wonderland Publishing help publishing for us, how long does it take from beginning to end? Um, so I'll just say I'm very selective at this point about what kinds of projects I take on as hands-on projects done for you. So basically, right now I'm only working with clients one-on-one who want support from start to finish. So that's from visioning the project to developing the content, creating the art, the design, everything, help with producing the deck and publishing all of that. But if you already have a finished deck, then yeah, one of the more DIY options would be a better fit. But if we do everything, it's usually going to be about half a year. I hope this answers your question. But if you have any other questions about that, then please just reach out to me directly. Okay, Deborah says the next angel party is March 29th, johnmothershead.com. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check my schedule. If I can make it, I'll be there. Thank you. Um, yeah, so I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat right now. So I'm just gonna ask you, John, if there's any last words that you want to share with us before we end this call.
Sure, I would say that you are worthy, and you're capable of releasing your fear and following through on your dreams. So this is your invitation to do it, and to not be afraid to sell shamelessly, because everyone in the world needs your magic.
Thank you. And I think that's such a
Amen.
powerful message that so many of us need to hear over and over again. Um, Amanda says, just bought the deck. Can't wait to use it. I was just thinking the same. I need to buy your deck because I can feel it's, not just because it's so unique in so many ways, but I just feel like I've been missing that connection to the angelic realms a little bit lately, and I can really feel that energy and that essence coming through your art and your work and everything you say as
Oh,
well. So I feel like I need this deck.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you again for joining us here today and for sharing so openly about your process, and also most importantly for following the call and creating this deck and putting your work out there and showing up even when it's uncomfortable, which I think is really such an important part of this journey, and you're really being a light of inspiration for all of us. So I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, John. Thank you so much. And also, there's been many different positive comments that were directed towards you and your work throughout this chat as well that didn't get read out. So if you have a chance to read through the chat, that would be awesome too.
Yeah, I
And
Well,
think we can
thank
probably export the comments. No, the Zoom recording should include those, so I can forward those to you later. Um, and yeah, I'll just say for everyone or for anyone who's interested in joining us on this journey and creating their deck with our support, you can find us on deckcreators.com, or you can just reach out to us directly with any questions you may have. And then once again, you can find John at johnmothershead.com and on all sorts of social media platforms. So Instagram, I know you are, and then all the others you mentioned. And Heath, do you have any last words or anything you want to share before we end the call?
I was going to share this. We have these little cute mini affirmation cards now. We just got the samples in, and I just wanted to show you really quick. They're tiny in the hand.
These are cute. I pulled this card the other day. Just,
The B card. Yeah.
yeah.
But I was just pulling one to see what was coming up, and I got the bee, and it's like it just reminded me of the honey and the angels and stuff, so it was perfect. But John, I really appreciate it. I just followed you on Instagram, and I'm looking forward to joining an angel party too. And I really feel that in you, this like resonance of spirit and energy. And I love how all of your words are directed positively towards helping and inspiring others too. And I've been reading a lot of pretty dense abundance mindset stuff lately. And one of the things that keeps repeating is when you start teaching others, you know you're on the right path. And so when you were talking about that earlier, how you never thought you'd be teaching and now you're teaching, like you're on the right path. And so we're happy that you're here too. And we're really appreciative. So thanks for coming and sharing.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored.